Hey everybody, my name is Zach and I like movies, and I'm here to talk about the new Roadhouse remake from director Doug Liman. So Doug Liman has a pretty interesting and somewhat varied career. He started out with Swingers with Jon Favreau. Eventually made a lot of really pretty classic action movies. You know, whether it's like the Mr. and Mrs. Smith remake, The Bourne Identity. There's Live, Die, Repeat / Edge of Tomorrow. Well, I don't know what we're calling it, but we should have been calling it All You Need Is Kill the whole time, because that's the name of the original manga, and that name rules. But now we put out this remake of Roadhouse, which the original cult classic 80s movie starring Patrick Swayze at probably his most iconic next to Point Break, and directed by a man named Rowdy Harrington. And really, when your name is Rowdy, you seem destined to make a movie like Roadhouse. And I actually have not seen the original Roadhouse in full until a few days ago to prepare to watch this new one, and it rules. It's so good. Like, it's not a movie that is like unironically bad or like so bad is good. It is a movie that is like takes this like ridiculous, like sort of like weird like neo-western genre trappings, and like throwing them in with all this like 80s sleaze and like this Arkansas backdrop into these and escalated all of them with this like earnest, sincere craftsmanship, whether it's like Patrick Swayze and is like being basically the coolest man who ever lived, and like Dean Cundy's cinematography, who was like John Carpenter's go-to DP for a long time, and it's so good. It is a really good movie. If you have not seen the original Roadhouse movie, it's absolutely worth your time. Definitely best enjoyed with friends, probably drunk, but it's good either way. That's a new favorite of mine. Like, wow, it's so good. It's so much fun. And so I was really curious what they would do with this new Roadhouse movie. And the trailer looked fun enough. And Doug Liman made a bit of a big stink when after the premiere at South by Southwest, he was furious that it was only going to be relegated to streaming on Amazon Prime. And he wanted this to have like a full theatrical run. And honestly, it's maybe it's best that it stays streaming. This is an it, Chief. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed out that this movie didn't really work out that well. Like I kind of knew that it wouldn't really live up to the original movie even before seeing it. But I feel like it's a little unfair to say to like declare that like remakes to be like way like attempts at being a superior version of the story. Like sometimes they're just like different variations, or like, and if you have something like that's been adapted, a kind of story that's been adapted a number of times, like say A Star Is Born, there's no really like, it's less that like one is better than the other and more like they're just telling the same story different ways. Like with West Side Story, like the original one is classic in its own right, but like the Spielberg one, that is also absolutely masterful. And so I kind of was hoping for at least a good time, because okay, so Roadhouse, the new Roadhouse, stars Jake Gyllenhaal as an ex middleweight UFC fighter, Elwood Dalton, and he's kind of drifting around, and he gets hired to be like in the original movie he's effectively a cooler. It's a guy at the bar, a guy who works at a bar who like gets all the people who like starting rowdy stuff and throwing stuff, trying to start fights, and they just escort him out of the place, keeping things cool. And so here he's just kind of brought in to bring in kind of like a straighten the place up, because the Roadhouse that is just named Roadhouse it's like been attracted to the wrong crowd. Well, it's been purposefully set that wrong crowd because that Roadhouse is like the last part of like this like big like real estate developer who wants to like own the whole like chunk of land and like tear it down and turn it into a rich condominium emporium or whatever the hell. And it's down to the Florida Keys this time. And hey, Florida represent. I'm not too mad at that. And so what we have is like this odd set, this movie that's like following similar beats to it. It's definitely not like a 1-to-1 remake, which is good, especially in the way that they like do with Dalton. There's things that they do with Dalton that probably would, if you're a little bit of a loyalist to the original 80s movie, this will definitely rub you the wrong way. Like they don't bother at all with him being like some Zen philosopher monk who like does Tai Chi in the morning. He's like a damaged like fighter. Just he's all warrior. And with the original with the Patrick Swayze Dalton, there definitely was like a darkness that he was like hidden, that he was like trying to like keep down. Now, more in the sense of like, oh, he's trying to like do it. He's like trying to like keep himself from like being too taken in by the violence for like his philosophical and spiritual healing. But with the Jakey G Dalton, he is like he knows that he is a dangerous man, and he's got to keep a cap on that because he knows he will hurt people, and he doesn't really want to hurt people. Well, like he's honestly kind of an affable dude. Like he's a little like he has some good moments. He's like kind of nice, but as with a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal performances, you always get the sense that like there's something else going on about him, like just kind of like on the offhand, And that's something I really like about Jake Gyllenhaal. He's definitely one of my favorite actors working these days. Whether it's in anything, but if it's like a big like studio blockbuster or it's like a more smaller independent movie, he's always so like 110% committed to the piece. And I think with this Dalton, the character really only kind of works because of Gyllenhaal's charisma, of his like charm, and because on paper he kind of the problem with Dalton on paper in the new Roadhouse is that okay, so like they have Dalton be like just a warrior, a damaged warrior who has blood on his hands and stuff. That's fine, but the problem is that the world around him isn't really that much more crazier than he is. They're just kind of like in the same ish area, like with the again not to compare too much, but like with the original Dalton, he was like the cool, nice, again, Zen warrior monk. He was like the straight man to the rowdy, disgusting, sleazy world that he was stuck in, and he was trying to like not let the sleaze and the violence tempt him to do further violence. But like it's not really until Conor McGregor shows up in this movie that the world kind of like the world surrounding Jakey G's Dalton just doesn't really like match him. And I think I don't know, I think because there's just a very like really just kind of like stockness to like his character, it feels kind of like it doesn't feel like enough. It really feels like it's just being carried by Jake Gyllenhaal, and honestly, I really feel like the movie should have committed a little more to that feeling of like kind of being a little over the top, because there are moments here that are honestly silly and even fun. There are fun moments to be had. Like the first fight Gyllenhaal has at the Roadhouse, where he's like bitch slapping all these bikers, is hilarious. There's actually a villain. There's actually like a henchman who's like overly talkative and shares too much. He's actually really funny. Gets a lot of the laughs, even when things take a weirdly dark turn. There's the main villain who like isn't who's like he's such a he is kind of the over the top up energy that the movie needed more of, because he's such a piece of shit here. And a lot of the other, and again, I'm trying. I don't want to compare too much to the original Roadhouse, but like I literally saw them both the same day, so it was kind of hard for me to separate them. But the original Roadhouse, like, you had like the bar itself feel like such a place, and had such a sense of character to them. The patrons, not the patrons there, the people who work, the bartenders who worked there, the band that played there, and hell, even Sam Elliott, who was like honestly the most handsome he's ever been. Like Salt and Pepper never looked better than that guy. When Sam Elliott comes in, like there's such a great sense of like who these people are, and like why sure, even though Dalton feels like kind of a reluctant hero, does eventually care about the people. He does eventually like kind of help inspire the people around him, and in the bar that he's working at, to like kind of like stand up for themselves against the big rich fat cat that's like terrorizing them. But here they're all just kind of like they feel, it's not that they are extras, but they might as well be extras. They don't have much character to them. Like there's a nurse that has kind of a romance with him, there's a nurse that has a romance with him. There's some cop stuff, but and again, it all feels like they're kind of like just under Gyllenhaal's wavelength in terms of like how Dalton is in this world. Because like again, and like yeah, they often like point out how like yeah, this does feel like a Western story, but like when he eventually leaves, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess this is like a Western, but I guess it's like not just like a Western in general in terms of like the genre trappings. This is just like a Western in terms of like it's just kind of doing Shane, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it's okay. But and like in terms of like the villains, like again, the big villain, like the big bad, he's fine. He's a fun guy. You just kind of want to see get his shit rocked in. But then it's not. But it's really not until like Conor McGregor shows up, that you get some like kind of like, okay, like Conor McGregor isn't like given a good performance, but I do think he understood the assignment. He kind of is on some kind of wavelength of the sort of like over the top kind of bro-y like what's the word I'm looking for? He definitely adds the sleaze that this movie kind of needed more of, and he committed to that sleaze. And like the way the movie kind of treats him is pretty fun for the first part. Like they basically treat him like he's a hurricane of a man. You just point him in the right direction, and he will just like do whatever damage needs doing and then some. And just lives up to his own end. He's like the Tasmanian devil by way of monster energy. And when he fights with Jake, it's like fine. It's like, and yeah, as far as like the fights go, they're kind of just okay. So, and again, one of the major problems with this movie is that Liman does this kind of weird experiment with the digital film, with the digital cameras, where he'll have like a fight that is stitched to look like a lawn take, where it'll start in like a POV where like in the fight, like seeing and feeling the the punches in the POV, and then it'll like swing back into a big master, and oftentimes, and it kind of like keeps that sort of weird energy up in a lot of the standard scenes. Like there'll just be like unmotivated camera pans, or there'll be like sometimes these weird fisheye lens that kind of make the movie look weird. Like this is the Florida Keys. Sometimes I think the movie looks pretty good, but other times it looks really oversaturated. It looks really like oddly grayed out, and also there's a lot of CG, way more CG than you would expect a Roadhouse remake to have, and it really does not work. That being said, I do think Liman was trying something new with what could be done with like the digital photography, because a lot of the shots kind of look like they were filmed by like a bystander in the character's space. And I think I don't know if it doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it does. And honestly, I want to give credit to the swing. I think that's a worthwhile, like, sometimes experiments don't work, but I admire the experimentation of it. But yeah, this was not really good. The longer I've sat with it, the less I even really remember it. I mean, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal was good, and Conor McGregor was like kind of goofy. He was like, just trotting around with his ass out, just like throwing punches. Don't know if he was doing a performance. Also, by the way, I never like. It wasn't until watching this movie that I realized, oh yeah, I haven't actually heard Conor McGregor talk, so I actually didn't know that he was Irish, like that kind of Irish. I thought it was just like a name. I'm really showing my ass here, because I only hear of Conor McGregor. I don't watch any of that, but yeah, like when he started talking, I'm like, oh, is he being dubbed? That his voice? All right, if that's okay. And yeah, it's mostly really forgettable. There's just not much to it, which is a shame. I feel like maybe if you were kind of drunk, maybe if you had friends, maybe if you did see this in a crowd, and you had just like a nice time, you had a nice drunk debaucherous time at the movies, maybe you would like enjoy it more, because I do think there is fun to be had, but not enough. Really just doesn't, honestly, I don't think is worthy of the name. I don't think especially with how it's filmed, with how it's like written, I don't think it's like really anything unique unto itself. It feels very generic, which is probably the worst thing that a Roadhouse remake could be, is just feeling like some other kind of movie. And I think that's why it deserves a decent to strong 4. I was not impressed, which is a shame. But what did you think of the new Roadhouse remake? Do you think the original Roadhouse movie is good in its own right, or ironically good, or so bad it's good? But regardless, comment, like, subscribe. I'll be watching a bunch more movies, and I hope you do too. And I will see you later.